everyone, this is Peggy with Sweet Tea Makery, and I'm so glad you joined me today. So I'm getting ready to work on some fall projects, and I know that a lot of folks are having a hard time finding the Waverly antique wax. Our supplies are kind of getting a little scarce, so I wanted to show you this technique that you can use on any of your wood Dollar Tree projects, or actually on any wood projects. So this is a technique that's been around for a while. It's nothing super new, but a lot of folks still don't know that you can do this. So what it is you can do a faux stain on wood using acrylic paint. And really, y'all, it comes out just beautifully. I'll just show you a sample. So this is one that I did, a turkey, and I've stained it using acrylic paint. So you can use any color that you want, and really, you know, you just have to experiment with the colors. If you're looking for something, say, that is, you know, you want to use, have a black tint to it, like this, I did this little sample board. This is using black paint, and I'll show you the technique in just a minute. And this is actually a white, using a white-based acrylic paint. And there's no particular brand. You can use Apple Barrel, Folk Art. The only one that I have had trouble doing this technique is with chalk paint. And so I think because it already has that quality that you can use to get this finish already, maybe in the formula, I don't know, but I do know that this does work with acrylic paints. So I want to give you a sample. So here's a piece that I picked up last year at Hobby Lobby, and it is actually stained. Not sure if it's a gel stain or what, but it's actually a stained finish. You know, it came that way. So what I'm trying to do is get that same look. So I did a sort of a sample board, and so this is what it looks like when we finished. It's raw, and then this is what it looks like when I've added a coat of Mod Podge for sealing it. You don't always have to seal it. If you like that raw finish, that's fine. But if you prefer sealing it, you can use a number of sealers. You can use Mod Podge or a clear coat spray. Here's a little better, kind of better side to it. So what happens when you do seal it, it does get a little bit of a sheen to it, and it does darken it just a little, just FYI. So if you want to seal it, you can. It just depends on the look that you're looking for. So right now, I'm going to tilt you down, and we're going to start this little project. Okay. So I'm trying to keep from getting too much of a shadow, y'all, so you can see. There we go. So I've turned my turkey over. Now when I'm working on paint, I usually lay down a little layer of wax paper. That's just in case I have any spillage. And I add just some frog tape, you know, usually generally to the corner so it doesn't move around on me. And you know, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. So now if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, if you go ahead and just subscribe and tap that bell so you get notified of any new projects, I'll definitely be coming on and showing you what I end up doing with this little turkey here. But for today, I'm just going to show you how to achieve that faux stain look. So I've already showed you using black and a white. Now it's really hard to tell, but it is It has been washed with a white acrylic paint. So I wanted to try blue. And really, all you need is your paint and some baby wipes. Now the kind I'm using is a fragrance-free sensitive, you know, where it has no fragrances. And you don't really need the whole sheet, so what I generally do is I just trim it and use whatever I need. So you don't need to use the whole sheet at first. And I just kind of toss some of it over to the side. Okay, so to achieve the wood look, we're going to use a different kind of paint. But let's just quickly look at how we can use an actual color. And that way, if you have any projects that you want to kind of coordinate, you can do that. So I guess the the best way to explain this is that it's moist. You don't want to dry them out. They want to be moist. And so I'm actually just going to kind of tilt this over. Okay, and this is a blue paint. It's called Cascade. It's a folk art paint, and again, it's acrylic. I usually just kind of dab it a little bit right there. And then we're going to take this little stick, and I'm just going to kind of show you how it works. So we'll just start rubbing, and you want to go with the grain of the wood, which is going in this direction. And you can see it's starting to have that faux kind of look. And now if you want it a little darker, you could rub less. If you got too much while you're working on it, you can just turn to a cleaner piece while you still have time and go over. See, it took some of that off so it's even lighter. But we'll just go back. Now, if it's still not quite as dark as you want it, you would let this dry, I'd say about 20 or 30 minutes, probably less. You would let that dry and then come back, and you can go along the sides as well, and let that dry and just go over another coat. We might do that toward the end, just to show you how that works. So for this project, I again want this wood look to it. It seems kind of fallishy looking. So we're going to work on this turkey. I'm going to toss that, and what I'm using today is apple barrel burnt umber. So of course you want to shake it up, and how your paint adheres to your wood, the wood grains in this particular piece is going this way. So how the wood absorbs just depends on the type of wood that you're using. This is a different type of wood from that, so you know, you kind of have to just experiment. And again, you can do this on your pumpkins, you know, whatever project you have. So I kind of tend to just take that piece that I cut and fold it over. And the great thing about this is that it's, of course, a water-based. It doesn't have any of the smells that some of the gel stains have, and it's super easy cleanup, and really doesn't stain your hands because you can wash it off. So I think what I'm going to do is shake it up just a little. Now make sure your finger is right on there. Okay, and it doesn't take much paint to start with. So we'll start on his head. And you can see how it starts to stain. And again, how dark you want it just depends, you know, on your preference. Now again, if you get too dark your first time around, you would go to that clear side and brush it down just a tad. See? But I kind of like this color. And again, you can always sand it after you stain, and it's still too dark. you can always sand it down just a tad, and that helps to take a little bit of that color off. And you know, you don't have to work too quickly because it'll stay wet for a little bit, but you don't want to walk away really right in the middle of it. I mean, you can, because you can actually come back and start working again, but I prefer to kind of make the time to get that project done. And because, you know, when you walk away from something like that, sometimes your pressure is different, and I always like to try to keep consistency in my projects. I'm probably going to come back and maybe do that a little bit lighter. And you can even use this if you want to keep going over it, and it'll wipe it up some. Generally doesn't take too long. You want to work in smaller areas first. You don't want to get too far ahead, because if you do, then what'll happen is that your paint will soak in, and then you will have some inconsistencies in your color. So you don't want to get too far ahead in your projects. I mean, too far ahead in your when you're working. And you can of course pour this out into a you know, a plate to work with it. I'm just dipping into the bottle itself. And you know, you can touch it. It's not really going to leave, if it does leave a fingerprint for you, you can just kind of come back over here. And we're gonna go back over that just a little. And I'm kind of liking a little bit of a darker tone to it. And we'll do the sides as well. Now I think I'm gonna get me a new one. It might take one or two baby wipes to complete this particular project, but it really doesn't take that long, and it dries fairly quickly, like, you know, less than 20 minutes. Now I'm using a surface that I did went ahead and sanded it down a little, because I just wanted a smoother surface, but you can do this same technique on a little bit of a rougher wood. What happens when you do it on a little bit of rougher wood, it will tend to get little darker spots, and then this will tend to pick, what I call pick up. And but that's okay, because once it's dry, you can come back and brush it off. And again, I'm staying with the grain, and anywhere that I see some inconsistency as far as light and dark, I'll come back and perfect it the way I want it. You know, kind of get it in the tones where I have a more even coverage. And I just go, I don't care if I'm going over the edge, because I'm going to stain the edge as well. I'm not concerned if I go. And these will last a good bit. There we go. And again, we want to go over the, go with the grain. Y'all, I don't know why, all of a sudden, I start talking about fall, and I start getting congested. That just came on me all of a sudden. Now, if you get a little too much on yours, you can just kind of like tap it off. Just put it in there like that. Kind of tap it off a little bit, so that when you touch it down on your surface, that it doesn't put a super amount of the stain on it. Okay, we got to get those little feet worked on. Yeah, there we go. Now I will sometimes go, you know, in the wrong direction, but if I do, I always go back over it. There we go. Okay, so this is where we're going to look at our project and see where we found any places that may be lighter than what I wanted. So I'm just going to use another piece, or another side rather. And again, if you get too much of that paint, just tap it off. And I think I'm going to come back and go just over it just a little bit more, just to get a little bit more even coverage. It's a little harder to see in this light, but I think I'm doing a pretty good job of it. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. And I'll show you the edges in just a minute. Show you, you know, it's basically the same technique. A little bit lighter there. A little bit lighter there. And you can tap it just a little. But again, if you're doing that, you want to make sure. And I think I got a little lighter over here too. So I'm just grabbing a little bit at a time and not rubbing as hard, just to get it. And you do want to blend it in. And every once in a while, you'll have an imperfection in the wood there, and I think that's okay, because we can actually come back and take a paintbrush to that and dab it on, but that's an imperfection from the wood when it was cut. Okay, so I'm going to take my project and look at it, see if that's what I want to do. And you still have, again, a little bit of time to come back, see, and take some of that off. If you feel like you got a little dark in some areas, and lighten it up. Or if you feel like your edges got a little dark. Okay, I'm going to toss that and get me a new wipe. Again, this size project usually takes about 2 wipes, especially if you're doing both sides. You can wear gloves, or, you know, to me, when I'm done, of course it's underneath my nail, but you can just wipe your hand, you know, use the baby wipes to wipe your hands. Okay, what I wanted to do was show you how I do the edges. And again, I'm going to dab it off. And so we've got the edges here, and again, you're going to do the same thing. You're just going to go along the edge. And what I do is I come back and just brush it down. Brush it down. And it's not too hard to get up in these corners, but if you have any issues, you can take a brush and really get those corners, or you can just kind of push it down in there. And this one takes a little more time to do because it's you know, it's got a lot of cuts in it. And we'll do the turkey, the head. And again, you're just going along the edges just like this. And we're coming back. We're coming back. And you can see, you can just keep just dabbing at it until you get it the way that you want it to look. Now, I'm not going to do the whole project with you right now. I can come back and do that. I mean, as far as all the edges, because that would take forever. But I did want to show you how to do the edges. And again, if you can't get in those corners, you can take a little bit of the paint, and I would just kind of wet your brush first. Take a little bit of the acrylic paint. Doesn't take much, and kind of dab it in there, and then go back and wipe the excess off. Okay, so that's really the majority of the video, just to show you how I am doing that faux wood grain look to some Dollar Tree wood pieces. And of course, you can go back over this and seal it, like I said, with some Mod Podge that I got from Dollar Tree, or even if you decide that you want to paint over it, you can go back and paint over it, or if you want to do some scrapbooking, you know, you can go back and do it. It doesn't do anything unless if you are going to do something else with it. You know, you want to try to do it before you actually seal the finished piece. But even with sealing it, I've done some scrapbooking on top of that, and really not had any issues when I've used Mod Podge. So I said we would go back, and let's see if we can darken this blue up so you can give it a little look-see and it's dry. And we'll just kind of shift that one out of the way. So let's go back and see what happens when we do a second coat. Get it out here. I don't recommend doing this too often, y'all, because I have spilled paint. That's why I put wax paper down. So y'all, if you like this project, let me know. Give me some thumbs up. Or if you have any questions, just ask me in the comments below, and I'll be glad to come back and answer them as best as I can. And again, if you haven't already subscribed, tap that subscription box, and when that red bell comes up, definitely tap that, because that's what's going to notify you when I upload new content. So here we've gotten it just a little bit darker, but it still has that whitewash look to it. And I just love this when I'm working on some items, especially that are kind of beachy related. It gives it that kind of beachy color. Actually matches colors in my house. And again, we're going to preview. So this is a black. It almost looks gray, but this is what I used. The black paint, I'll show you. I used a black paint. It's called Licorice. And this says multi-surface. It doesn't have to be multi-surface. It can be just plain old acrylic paint. And this actually happened to be multi-surface. Just whatever surface. You do not have to use multi-surface. For example, this burnt umber is just a matte acrylic. But I find that the burnt umber has that more brown tone. You can certainly use brown toned acrylic paints. But to me, the burnt umber seems to have more of a realistic wood tone to it. And again, here's our piece that we're trying to, you know, it doesn't have to be exactly. It's going to look different because it's actually rough. So it's going to be a little darker. But if this was smoother, it would match it almost perfectly. And again, just to show you. So that's the finished piece that's not been sanded, and it has not been sealed. This is sealed with a Mod Podge. And this is where I did 2 coats of the stain and got it, as you can see, substantially darker. And then sealed with the Mod Podge. So y'all, I hope that this helps. This technique helps you when you find your, you can't find your, especially that Waverly, it's getting super popular now. So that Waverly antiquing wax. And this stuff, I don't know, I do use it, and it is non-toxic and it's water-based, but it seems so dark. And it seems to take to the wood, which is fine if that's what you want your project to do. But it just seems, I mean, I would just use it sparingly for sure. And this is an easy cleanup with the acrylic paint, and I just love that, and it's inexpensive because I picked this up at Walmart for 50 cents, the burnt umber. And then, of course, you know, the Faux art's a little more expensive, but the differences that I see with Apple Barrel, it's a little bit thinner paint. So it seems to me really work well with this technique. And so does the Faux art, it does too, but it is a thicker, has a thicker consistency. So really, honestly, you just have to experiment with what you want and the look that you want. And the way I do that is I just take popsicle sticks and I use that technique on it. And actually, when I get done with this video, what I do is I go with a marker and I place on my little sample boards the color I used, and on this side too, so that I won't have to keep testing it and knowing like which one did I use. So that's just a kind of little quick tip for you, extra tip there. So, and I just keep them in my little sample drawer, and I can pull it out and say, oh yeah, this is what I'm looking for, or the Calypso blue. And if you want to do it where you've done 2 coats, you can say Calypso ×2, and that's how I do mine. And that way I know that that side had 2 coats, and maybe the other side, of course I didn't do them, is you know, Calypso 1. You know, that's kind of how I keep track of my samples. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have an awesome day. I've got some exciting new projects coming up, so please have a look out for those as well. I love all the holidays, fall, Christmas, Easter. So I've got some more fall and Christmas projects coming up, and I do hope that you learned something today and that you will try this technique. And if you have done that, I am also on Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest. If you want to share any of your projects over on my page, you can do that. Again, it's Sweet, the word Sweet, and Tea, T-E-A, spelled out, Makery. And you can find me down in the description where I'm listing all the materials for this project, and instructions on how you can create your own faux stain look with acrylic paint. So that's all today, guys. I hope to see you again soon. Y'all have a blessed day. Bye now.